Have you ever noticed something? The smartest person in the room is often not the one talking the most. While some people are constantly trying to prove their knowledge, defend their opinions, and get attention, a truly wise person often sits quietly, listens carefully, and speaks only when their words have meaning. But why? Why do intelligent people choose silence when the world rewards people who speak louder? The answer is deeper than just being an introvert. Many people talk because they are searching for approval. They want others to know I am right, I am important, I know something. But a person who truly understands themselves doesn't need to prove their value in every conversation. Psychology tells us that the need to constantly explain ourselves often comes from insecurity. When the mind is not peaceful, it tries to find confidence through other people's reaction. But when a person becomes mentally stronger, they stop wasting energy on unnecessary arguments. They understand that not every battle deserves their attention. The Bhagavad Gita teaches a powerful lesson about controlling the mind and rising above ego. Lord Krishna explains that a person with true wisdom remains balanced. They are not controlled by praise or criticism. They don't react to every situation. They observe first, then act. Think about your own life. Have you ever explained yourself again and again to someone who had already decided not to understand you? Have you ever entered an argument when even after winning you still felt exhausted? Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is a sign that a person has mastered themselves. A wise person knows that words have power. And when you understand the value of words, you don't use them everywhere because the ocean is deep, but it never need to announce its depth. The biggest reason people cannot stay silent is not because they have something important to say. It is because their mind cannot tolerate being ignored. The human mind has a strong desire to be seen, heard, and accepted. Psychologists call this the need for validation. We want people to agree with us. We want people to understand us. We want people to recognize our intelligence. But here is the truth: the person who depends on others' approval will always be controlled by others' opinions. One day someone praises you and you feel powerful. The next day someone criticizes you and your confidence disappears. Why? Because you gave someone else control over your inner peace. This is where the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita becomes powerful. Krishna teaches Arjuna that a person with true understanding doesn't become emotionally controlled by external situations. They remain steady. They don't become arrogant when people praise them, and they don't break when people criticize them. This is the difference between ego and wisdom. Ego says, I need everyone to know I am right. Wisdom says, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it every time. A wise person understands that every reaction is a choice. Someone insults you, insults them, they pause. Someone challenges them, they think. Someone misunderstand them, they don't immediately waste energy trying to convince everyone because they know something important. Not every person deserves access to your energy. Look at successful people in any field. They don't respond to every comment, they don't fight every opinion, they don't explain every decision. Why? Because their focus is not on winning every conversation, their focus is on creating a meaningful life. Silence becomes powerful when it comes from awareness, not fear. A person who is silent because they are scared has no power, but a person who is silent because they understand their own value, that silence becomes strength. So, does being wise mean you should never speak. No, silence doesn't not mean avoiding communication. A wise person is not someone who never talks. A wise person is someone who knows when to speak, what to say, and when silence is more valuable. Because words are like energy. Every time you speak, you are spending a part of your mental energy. The problem is that many people spend this energy on things that don't improve their life. They argue with strangers online, they try to convince people who don't want to understand, they explain themselves to people who have already judged them. And slowly, their peace disappears. The Bhagavad Gita teaches the importance of self control because acting a person should learn to observe their thoughts because the person reaction comes from emotion, but the right response comes from awareness. Imagine someone sends you an angry message. Your first instinct might be to reply immediately. You want to defend yourself, you want to prove them wrong. But what happens if you wait? You give your mind time to calm down. You allow wisdom to take control instead of anger. This small pause can completely change the result. A wise person creates a space between a situations and their reaction. That space is where real intelligence exists in daily life. You can practice this before speaking. Ask yourself three questions. Is what I am about to say necessary? Will these words create peace or more conflict? Am I speaking from wisdom or from ego? These simple questions can transform your relationship because sometimes the strongest answer is not a louder voice, it is a calm mind. Remember, anyone can react, but it takes awareness to respond, and that is why smart people stay silent sometimes, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that not everything needs to be said. The world often mistakes silence from weakness. People think if you are quiet, maybe you don't know the answer. If you don't defend yourself, maybe you are wrong. If you don't react, maybe you are afraid. But wisdom sees silence differently. Silence is the absence of words. Silence is the presence of control. A person who cannot control their emotion will speak every thought that comes into their mind. But a person who has mastered their mind understand something powerful. Not every thought deserve a voice, not every opinion deserve a response, not every person deserve your explanation. This is one of the greatest sign of growth. When you stop trying to prove yourself to everyone, you start investing that energy into becoming better. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the true strength comes from inner stability. A person who knows their purpose does not get distracted by every external noise. They don't need constant approval. They don't need everyone to understand them because their confidence comes from within. Think about a tree. A small tree bends with every strong wind, but a deep rooted tree remains steady. Why? Because its strength is not on the surface, it comes from its root. The same is true for a wise person. Their confidence is not based on how many people agree with them. Their confidence comes from knowing themselves. So the next time you feel the argue to explain yourself, pause, ask yourself, am I speaking because it is necessary, or am I speaking because I want approval? That one question can change your relationships with silence because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is not the one who speaks the most, it is the one who understands the value of every word. Remember, a noisy mind seeks attention, a peaceful mind seeks truth, and that is why smart people stay silent, not because they have lost their voice, but because they have found their wisdom.